everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 9 of Life Lessons with Uramichi Oniisan. And last episode we got a little bit too real in some places. The rule of 8 did not let us down. We got a little bit more into Uramichi's psyche. He has some unresolved trauma from his father and his upbringing. He has a sister that we don't really even know about. So Uramichi's connection together with Mammon and his dedication to trying to work with kids kind of makes a lot more sense now. And so I'm really glad that we got that information, especially moving forward into the final arc of the season. We know a lot about Iketeru and his sister at this point. We don't know a lot about Kumatani. He's kind of the least we know about. And then Tadano, we know she has her deal with her boyfriend. I really would like more with Tadano, and we have plenty of time this season to get there, but I would love more with her and kind of like, we haven't even seen the boyfriend up close. We've just seen him on stage doing his like comedy routine that she seems to be the only one that finds it funny, but people go to see it, so I guess they do, or maybe they're laughing at and not with. We don't know for sure. I'd love to know more about them. And then Usahara, we know that he has a gambling problem and that he has a hard time paying his rent and keeping things organized. So yeah, everybody's doing great. Basically everybody's doing great. It's wonderful. But I'm really, really excited to get into this episode and see what's going on. So yeah, I always find Uramichi Oniisan when I'm having a rough day, or I've like answered some comments that aren't as pleasant, or I'm just like, I need something to pick me up. As weird as it is, as much as they deal with these existential problems, I kind of love this show because it laughs at it and it's like, yeah, we're all dealing with some crazy shit. Here's what we got to do. And it's just, I want to watch ahead and get so far into this show, but then also like I'm watching ahead really, really far now, but I can't stop. I'm addicted. And so I'm like, we'll have a live stream about it. So it'll be fine. But yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll see in August if we have that live stream or not. I guess it would be around September. We'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But anyway, we'll talk about that live stream. I don't know if we'll have a live stream in September. Live streams are hard once school starts back up. The Uramichi struggle, and I really want them to make a second season of this, so I don't want to do a live stream, but we'll talk about it in more detail as we get further in, right? I'm counting my chickens before they hatch. So before we start, I want to give a very big shout out to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon to thank them for supporting my channel and for helping support me do these reactions. So a big shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, as well as to Bryant Reed, to Dana, to Danny Donmai, to Devorin, to Destiny Marie, to Danger Zone, to Ichu, to Eric, as well as Kiri, Elfreya, Lyndon, Ghostly Turnip, Fisho, as well as Matthew Palfinier, Murphew, Nameless Monster, Nicholas, as well as Sunspots, Trails, Shimoyama, and Translucent Men. Thank you all so much for all of your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. I try to keep my philanthropy tier in alphabetical order, and then for some reason I always like skip from E to L, and I'm like, what is the alphabet? What are letters? They sing a song in the OP about A, B, C. You'd think I'd get this, but I always tend to get those out of order. So anyway, we're gonna start episode 9 of Life Lessons with Uramichi Oniisan with my dogs at my feet, and we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's begin. Oh, this episode was really good. This episode was so good. Anytime they introduce new characters who are equally as insane as the rest of the cast, perfectly fine, yeah. So before we dive into this episode, I want to talk about the voice actors, because I was like, I know Kikaku's voice. I know that voice from somewhere, and I didn't recognize Weibu's voice at first, but I looked up Kikaku. His voice actor in the English dub is Johnny Young Bosch, and I'm like, oh. So I kind of want to watch the English dub now because I like Johnny Young Bosch a lot. He was my Ichigo growing up, so I'm like, I kind of want to see him play this insane character who is like so manic. And so intense, and Uramichi's match. So we're gonna get to him in a little bit, and talk about his character. But in the Japanese dub, he's played by Ryohei Kimura, who the only character I really know that he's the voice actor for is he is Bokudo's voice actor for Haikyuu, can pull off like the high energy, but he's also Amahisa's voice actor from Ace of the Diamonds. So I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, I get Bokuto's voice actor is kind of a chameleon. He can play a lot of different varied roles of different intensities. So him taking it to the extreme here makes sense. But then we have Kenichi Suzumura, who is the voice actor for Uebu, who is like the most calm, chill, emotionless character. His voice actor also plays the voice of Kira from Blue Lock, but Momotaru from Free. And I'm like, Momo? Momo is like one of the loudest characters in anime I maybe have heard in my lifetime. And you're playing Uebu. It almost feels like an Uramichi meta situation where Suzumura is just like playing this low energy, I'm just done character. After playing Momotaru for so many years, I'm like, oh my god. So he just went from like the most loud, high energy role with Momo to just being like, hey, I'm just gonna take these photos. Okay, we're good, done, bye. Oh my god, insane. I love the new voice actors. The voice acting cast for this series is so good. I think it's really underrated because you just come into the show and they not only get to like have fun and do their thing, but it's such a talented voice acting cast. Love it. Love it. So let's talk about this episode. So the idea is it's around Christmas time, New Year's Eve. We've jettisoned through the holidays in this season, and they're deciding what they want to do and where they want to go. Obviously, Tadano has her boyfriend, and Iketeru has his sister. We don't know what Kumatani's doing. He's probably hanging out with Iketeru. He's probably finding a way to worm his way into that situation as we speak. But that leaves Usahara and Uramichi. And Usahara, from last episode, it seems Usahara, it seemed like his dad was maybe an alcoholic and he doesn't want to spend time with him. I don't know if that's true or not. He seems like he wants to go anywhere else to have the holidays. Uramichi does not seem to have a good relationship with his father. There does not seem to be a mother in the picture. His sister left at a young age, so he doesn't seem to know what she's doing. So Usahara and Uramichi kind of have the holidays alone. Uramichi seems okay with this, but Usahara wants to hang out with somebody. So he tries to get Uramichi to get on board, and he's like, no, I don't really want to. So, and that's the opening of the series, of the episode. So then we go past the intro here and get to the little kid who's 3 years old with the boy hoodie sweatshirt. I don't know. The mom, maybe it's customary in Japan, and again, this is different cultures, but even back in the late 80s, early 90s when I was a kid, you can't say that this is just like a modern times thing, because back when I was a kid, my parents would never have left me as a 3-year-old out in the hallway while they went to the bathroom. I guess because it's not a public place, I guess because it's a studio, like a TV station, they're like, well, the only ones there are going to be the people that work there, so they felt safe leaving their kid in the hallway. And plus there's a bunch of other kids, so it's not like a mall or some public space where somebody can grab your kid and run off with them. I guess they did feel safe in hindsight, but I think I would have just taken my kid to the bathroom with me, been like, you just come in here and then you stay in the bathroom where I can hear you, and then we go from there. But he's so cute, and now that we know a little bit more about Uramichi and the relationship with his father and how his childhood was lacking and how Uramichi didn't really have a childhood, it makes a lot more sense now why he stays working here at Maman, because he wants to impact these kids' lives, and he gets inspiration to keep going day to day from the kids themselves. So then we have the concept of Santa, and I wanted to talk briefly about the idea that both Uramichi and Iketeru wanted toys growing up as a kid. They wanted toys, they wanted to have a childhood, but Uramichi's parents, it says his father, so maybe his mother died when he was little, maybe she separated from them when she was little, we don't know the story yet, but he said he, as in his father, or Santa in this case, only brought things like dumbbells and air mattresses. So, well, he said he as in Santa, so it could have been both of his parents, but he got dumbbells and air mattresses to practice his flips on. Because at first I was like, why did he get an air mattress? But to practice his flips. And then, which is sad, right? That he didn't get to have a childhood. It was molded by what his parent wanted. And Iketeru's was CDs and how to sing on pitch and things like that. And he didn't get a childhood either. His parents wanted him to become a singer. So Although Iketeru and Uramichi have very different views of that strategy. I just want to say, if you are a parent, please don't force your kids to try to do what you were good at or to try to persuade them to do something just because you were interested in it. I was really lucky because my mother and father were very athletic people. My dad played football. Their team won like the high school state tournament, all this stuff. My mom, she was really good at basketball. She coached basketball for years. She was really into it. And my brother and I have no athletic talent. We have no coordination. We have no physicality for it. I played basketball for 1 year and was so bad that my coach mom was like, you don't have to keep playing. I joke that if your parent that's a coach tells you you don't have to keep playing, that means you suck that bad. And as a kid, I didn't really care for it. I was just kind of doing it for that 1 year to like impress my parents, and they were like, no, you don't have to do that. And my brother never played football because he didn't want to. And I was really lucky that my parents didn't try to force their life onto me, which was really nice, and I'm very grateful for that. But I had friends whose parents coached or whose parents played sports, and they very much did try to force that on them, and I was like, ugh. Because, you know, you're not your parent, and you don't maybe have the skill set to them, and even if you do, you may not have the same passions. So I was really lucky, but I know a lot of kids that around me that were not so much, and I kind of like, if you have kids at home, don't make them do what you did, just let them do whatever they want. And if they choose the same path you did, well, cool. But if not, you know, I think this is a pretty big lesson. But that look from Iketeru, the look on his face when he's like, oh my God, I think we had the same Santa. That look of Iketeru was like the most heart-wrenching, and of course Miyano Mamoru playing Iketeru can pull off the oh my God, Uramichi-san. Like just the heartbreak that he had. Now, yes, Iketeru does still believe in Santa, which he's a damn cinnamon roll, so can we be surprised? I think that's why Kumatani likes him so much. He's just like, he's a cinnamon roll and he's too pure. You all are corrupted individuals. I want this pure cinnamon roll. Bye. I don't blame him. I would steal Iketeru for myself. I would. Iketeru would be right up my alley. He's so sweet. And I like that Uramichi's like, should I tell him? Should I tell him? That moment where he opens up the door and hits Uramichi was so damn funny. But he's like, should I tell him that Santa doesn't exist? Should I explain this? And the way that Iketeru looks at the situation is he's like, well, yeah, I didn't get to have a childhood, but me becoming a singer led me to being able to be on this program and meeting you all and being with you. So he's like, I guess I can, you know, I guess it's all thanks to that, you know, careless Santa-san. And Uramichi's like, wait, do you still believe? And then Kumatani's like, shh. he's like, leave him alone. So this episode had a lot of shipping in it. My shipping radar was like beep, 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 going off left and right every 5 seconds. I still like Iketeru and Uramichi as a ship. If you ship them, I 100% don't blame you, because I think that Iketeru is sweet for Uramichi. I think maybe he's too sweet for Uramichi. When Uramichi was like, you still believe in Santa? I feel like that was, I don't know if Iketeru is real enough for Uramichi. I don't know if he's like street smarts enough for Uramichi. I think Uramichi would get annoyed with him after a while, but I think it's good for Iketeru to be Uramichi's friend because he needs that positivity in his life. For sure. But I think right now, as it is, Kumatani and Iketeru are my ship. Kumatani, like, switching the champagne glasses. Everybody's trying to take advantage of Iketeru, and it does frustrate me, especially when the general manager's daughter was, like, trying to, like, get him drunk, and he's like, okay. And Kumatani's, like, switching out the champagne. I'm like, yes. Which Iketeru noted in the last, when they all went out to eat, that he doesn't drink a lot, but maybe he reviews champagne and beer on different levels. I don't know. But anyway, Kumatani watching out for Iketeru is why I ship them so hard, because he cares so much for him. And I'm like, yes, I'm 1,000 times here for it. But I don't know. So we meet Iketeru, who's in the marketing department, and is like, sorry, this place is a mess. I just had all this run. Iketeru is insane. And I kind of love him. What was his astrological sign? Was it Aquarius? I was going to talk about my best friend. And I was like, is he an Aquarius? He is an Aquarius. No, he's not. He's a Capricorn. Never mind. I was going to say, my BFF is an Aquarius. And there was a moment here where he was talking about something at work. And I was like, oh, that happened to my best friend. So interesting. But yeah, he's like, sorry, this place is a mess. And he's like, get out of the way. And like kicks out all of the... again, I feel bad for Uramichi that his dream has been made into this like real life mascot for the show, which would probably make him feel insane. And I love that Iketeru, all the piercings, he looks like he was in a band, looks like he was kicked out of a band, and now he has to get it. Or he could still be in the band and this is his job to make money, because if you've watched the anime Given, you know that a lot of band members, especially up and coming bands that don't have a lot of lucrative income, they have to have secondary jobs. So this seems like his secondary job while he's in the band. I'm like, oh my God. I don't know if this guy could be in Given though. He's too hyped up. And I just love that he's so manic. He's like, and I feel like Uramichi, I was like, is Uramichi attracted to him? Because he keeps trying to open his heart up to Iketeru, and Iketeru keeps like shutting the door to let that happen. And I feel kind of bad for Uramichi. I feel like Usahara can be kind of slimy sometimes and gets on Uramichi's nerves. I think Uramichi is maybe genuinely scared of Iketeru, would be too, but I also feel like there's something Uramichi kind of like wants to open up and talk to him about, because he sees Iketeru's like manic state of just anxiety, and he's like, I know what that's like. I want to talk to you about it. It almost feels like Uramichi wants to have a therapy session with Iketeru and like have them spill each other's, thoughts and feelings about it, but Kikeru's just having none of it. And him just going from whenever he's like, everything's fine, but it's really not. And he gets like all like whispery. I have to watch the English dub of this. I have to. So they decide to produce these New Year's items for Christmas, New Year's. Here's my thing. The little blow up plushes of the mascot, one with the vest or the shirt and one just plain, they were fine. Why did they have to create these monstrosities that had realistic chicken legs and bloomers? Those look so terrifying. Like, that's insane. And he's like, why is this last minute? He's like, it's like, this is from the higher up. Why are you telling me last minute like this? Ha ha ha. And then he just like freaks out and disassociates. And Uramichi's like, you fascinate me. Can I get to know you? So then he says, my boss went home leaving this Katori-san goods proposal to me to finish and it's due tomorrow morning. That reminded me of my BFF. She has a supervisor that is the worst and reminds me of a character that would be on this show. And she had, her boss was supposed to do this report that was due like over the course of 6 months, and she didn't do it until the last day. And she was like, hey, she's like, can you help me do this report? And because she's her supervisor, my best friend was like, I guess I don't have a choice. I'll help you do it. And she's like, okay, well, you stay here and do it here at work. And I'm going to go home and work remotely and we'll do it together. But I have to be at home because I'm getting my kids, my like sister's kids to watch, blah, blah, blah. Well, what ended up happening was she never logged in to help my friend with the report. My friend ended up staying till like 2 a.m. to do the report. And then didn't get any credit for it. And I was like, girl. So I feel when Iketeru says this, I'm like, oh my God, that is terrible. And I am feeling you. He's like, we found out a Katori-san plushie. So Katori, I guess, is the name of the mascot. He's like, oh, for a second when I found out how to do all this, I thought I'd just fly out the window over there. And I think that's why Uramichi's like, oh my God, you were actually had some ideation. You got some messed up stuff going on. Can we talk? Like, yes, I want to talk to you. And he's like, please help me. And I like that he asks him to help. And then he like duct tapes him to the chair. And he's like, I don't want you to run away. And Uramichi's like, I'm not going to run away. I'll help you. And then he like grabs the chair and he's like, everyone runs. He's like, my dependable boss, my main girlfriend, my band buddies, they run faster than you could possibly imagine. So when he says his main girlfriend, also he's suggesting that he has like multiple girlfriends. So for a hot second, I wanted to ship him and Weibo just because Weibo and him have such stark personalities and contrasting personalities. And I'm kind of all for that opposites attract thing. But then going back to this episode and realizing he has a bunch of girlfriends, no, I think he's just manic. I don't really want to ship Uramichi with him, but I feel like Uramichi wants to open up to him and get to know him better because he's like, you're interesting. Let me know you. And it's just not working out for him. We'll talk about Weibo here in a minute, though. And he's like, I'll watch from the side. Just don't pay attention to me while you're drawing. And then he just stares at him, and it's the funniest thing. He's like, well, he scares me, but maybe he and I can understand each other. That's the thing. He's like, he wants to open up his heart to get to understanding Iketeru, because he feels like there's a connection between the two of them. They both come at things from a similar perspective, but Iketeru's like, relaxing time alone. Like, what? He's like, well, people usually have a backup girlfriend besides the main one. And immediately he's like, well, that way you wouldn't spend your Christmas alone, right? And immediately Uramichi's like, nope, never mind. Someone was suggesting that Uramichi might be like asexual, which I could totally get the vibes for. I definitely get the asexual vibes because anytime like relationships are brought up, Uramichi seems like he doesn't want to forge any of those or have them. But it could also be that Uramichi, you know, he's had such a messed up childhood, he may not want to have a relationship with anybody because what would that even be like? And he maybe doesn't feel like he earns that relationship. So I feel bad. It's like Iketeru is the first person he opens up his heart to, and it doesn't work out. So then, yeah, Yuta the kid gets this damn chicken plush, and it is absolutely terrifying. And then Uramichi ends up with all of these creepy plushes. I feel so bad for him. Like, what the hell is he going to do with all of those? He gives Kumatani and Usahara each one. So then they do 3 sessions a day. I'm assuming they're recording 3 sessions because it's the holiday season and they don't want to, they want to go ahead and get it done before break so they can have them air. I feel for them. I wanted to look and see if things changed between sets of kids. Like we have the one group of kids, some of them are looking, some of them are not. And they're like, when we grow up. And so then there's like one group of kids saying bye-bye. And then it switches to the next group of kids. Yep. And they're a different set. And then a third set. The one thing this show does really well is you can see some of the kids in the audience. 2 of them are the ones that see Uramichi later. So that's kind of cool that they kept the same animation between all of them. Wild. So then Usahara's like, man, what a rough week shooting 3 sessions. Can you believe it? And the thing about it is, because you may question, like, why is Usahara in such a good mood when Uramichi and Iketeru and Tadano are like dead? Well, Usahara and Kumatani have a mask on. They have a hat. They don't have to have all this like high energy facial expressions 24/7. They can like look as depressed as they want to underneath this helmet as long as they move around. Whereas Iketeru and Uramichi and Tadano, they have to be performative for 3 sessions. So no wonder they're absolutely broken inside, right? They've reached their limits. So like, well, after this is the holidays and New Year's, and then we don't have to do anything. He's like, there's no way our last day of work can be over this easily. I like Uramichi's like, he's like, I don't trust this false sense of security. So then the digital planning department's going to update the website, so they want to take some pictures. And so Weibo goes, I don't know what Iketeru is imagining with the onigiri. It's like they're giving each other a massage. I'm like, what are you imagining, Iketeru? What is this? And then Iketeru is so sweet because poor Tadano, like, I totally feel where she's coming from. I feel like if you don't realize you're getting your photo taken that day and you didn't put on makeup or you don't look your best, you're just like, oh, this is going to be awful. And Iketeru tries to be nice. He's like, well, I think you look really pretty. And she's like, oh, gee, thanks, Iketeru. And then Usahara's like, really? I'm like, he digs his own grave. I'm like, Usahara, why are you doing this? And Uramichi just looks at him like, you deserve this, right? So then Weibo from Digital Planning, who is just has no energy. He's like, I'm going to take the pictures now. 3, 2, 1. And then he takes like 17. He's like, okay, we're good. I don't know if Weibo is supposed to be like a Gen Z reference because a lot of the like complaints I get from people that are older than me are like, oh, Gen Z, they just don't put any work into it. And I'm like, well, maybe they're just maximizing their efficiency knowing what the job is, you know? I feel like there's something from each generation we can learn from and that each generation kind of takes into account. The one thing about millennials, if you notice my generation, we will do lots of things without asking or questioning the validity of. It's like, oh, you want me to do that job? Sure, I'll do it. And I do respect Gen Z for definitely questioning, being like, why am I doing this? Am I getting paid enough for this work? Is this, you know, worth my time? Like, I'm kind of glad that they have the gall to ask such questions because somebody has to. But I feel like Gen Z gets a bad rap sometimes about certain things particularly. And they're like, well, where'd he go? And they're like, well, he left. I do feel bad for Uramichi. Uramichi tells the boss that he doesn't want to do something. He says it twice. He's like, I don't want to go to the party. I don't want to have to do this. Why do I have to do this? And the director just makes him do it and threatens him very cordially, but it's like, hey, the general manager is counting on you. I'll tell him you're responsible for it. So, okay, you're going to do it, right? Like, I feel so bad for Uramichi. He's clearly taken advantage of in that situation, and I feel for him because he clearly does not want to do anything. And I'm sure that the director puts him in charge of it because the director knows that Uramichi will go do it because he's a go-getter. He'll go get it done whether he likes to or not. So then as he leaves, he sees the two kids, and the kids give him, just as he's like, this director is making me question why I'm here. I don't want to do this. Then the kids like wish him luck and tell him that they're happy that he was there for them today. And he's like, just how water soothes your dry throat, how medicine works on a cold. He's like, some things resonate with your exhausted, dejected heart. Like, I feel like he wants to know Kikaru because he relates to him being exhausted and dejected, but those kids help like keep him going, right? So then I love that instantly Uebu is like, I don't want to go to the party. And Uramichi's like, I get it. I know that you don't want to. And then in comes Kikaru. I love his black boots with his black shirt. And he's like, you bastard, you did it again. How many times I tell you not to create a pre-order site for something that hasn't been decided on? And Uramichi's like, oh my god. And he's like, oh yeah, oh hey Uramichi Oniisan. He's like, what's up? And then as he's like kicking Uebu, I love it. And he's like, oh Kikaru-san, we have an end of the year party. And he's like, you bastard. And then to be fair, Uebu making this like Kotori-san glove is absolutely atrocious. Like, dude, you may not be straight, you may not be heterosexual, but your lack of taste is also very apparent. I'm like, oh my god. His sexuality and his lack of taste is right there on center stage. I'm like, oh my god, no. Which, you know what? Oh my god. Him and the choreographer could totally work out because the choreographer, like, other than, I was telling everybody in the Discord this, other than him like trying to flirt with Usaharu, who clearly does not want it from him. Other than that, I like the choreographer's character. That's the one aspect I don't. And so I'm glad that it doesn't really happen in this episode. But I am all for Uebu and the choreographer because, one, it will keep the choreographer away from Usahara if he's hitting on Uebu. But also, Uebu's taste, like with the merchandising, is really gaudy. And the choreographer, I'm sure they're lovely. They're kind of gaudy too. So maybe they're a match made in heaven. Maybe this works out great because those gloves are atrocious. And he's like, what were you thinking? There's no way we'll sell an absurd item like this. And Uebu's just like, whatever. And he just keeps on with it. And Uramichi's like, we're receiving so many pre-orders. And Uramichi's like, I'm leaving. I love that he like slowly backs out of the room. It's so funny. This episode had a lot of physical comedy that was just absolutely hilarious. So then, yep, he goes out to smoke and we have our end of the year party. And we see the general manager. Now, we do find out that Uramichi's hurt his back again. I don't like where that's headed. I feel like that's going to be something that's going to come up the next several episodes. So I don't like that. And then that stupid kid comes up, asking him to pick him up. And I'm like, look, I'm like the parents, the mom and the grandpa in this, like, can you not have your kid getting picked up by Oniisan? Really? Meanwhile, the mom doesn't care. She's just here to try to hit on Iketeru. And the general manager seems tone deaf too. So it sucks for Uramichi. I hate it. And meanwhile, while Uramichi is like, has the kid on his back, hurting himself, Iketeru's like, oh, hi, he's trying to be nice. And then the general manager kind of hits on Utano. And she's like, oh, stop it, general manager. And I'm like, leave her alone. But then the mom, she's like, oh, well, do you drink champagne? And he's like, oh, yes. He's like trying to be nice. And then that's when Kumatani asks for a non-alcoholic one. Yes, I love Kumatani grabs it. And she's like, cheers. And then he goes, UFO, look. And she's like, what? And then he swaps it. So smooth. I love Kumatani just coming in, taking the reins, and just being such a glue holding this together. He's like, I'm not going to let Iketeru get taken advantage of. And then he sees Uramichi, who's just looking at him like, please help me. Get this kid off of me. Save me. Like that face. I was like, oh my God. Someone help him. And then, of course, because Kumatani and Usahara are there, the little kid is like, who are you old farts? And they're like, we can't tell him that we're the rabbit and the bear because then he'll know, right? It always amazes me how deep Usahara's voice actor voice is, because I would expect, I don't know why I expect Usahara to like have a higher pitched voice. I don't know why, but I just do. And so whenever I hear Usahara like yelling and it's in this deep voice, I'm like, it kind of throws me off. I don't expect it, but so yeah. So the choreographer is there in the gaudiest thing possible. Like, I mean, I get you want to wear a dress and you have a muscular body. That's a hard case to do. But like the off-the-shoulder faux fur, and then the one faux fur cuff, and then the gold on the other end, and then like the Wilma Flintstone pearl necklace. I'm like, I would have accessorized maybe a little bit differently. But then Uebu like literally bumps into him, and I'm like, how'd you not see the choreographer? Like, they're the only ones standing around. How'd you literally run into them? So I thought Uebu was flirting. But then you realize Uebu doesn't have their glasses on. They have these contacts in that are just colored contact. They're not colored contacts. We'll get to that point here. I thought maybe their vision was hurt. And he's like, oh, sorry. But Uebu without the glasses on, the choreographer's like, oh, you're pretty good looking. And they're like, do you want a drink? And then the one guy, Uebu's like, oh, let's go drink with the others. He's like, no, thank you. I like that he's like, oh, just come with me. So, I mean, Uebu didn't say, you know, no, because he didn't want to drink. He just didn't want to be around people. So then we see Uramichi noticing Iketeru with the vape looking completely spaced out. And Uramichi's like, hey, we have something in common. We both smoke. And he literally drops the cigarette. I'm like, Uramichi seems very infatuated with Iketeru. Like, he wants to open up his heart to him. He's like, oh, thanks for yesterday. He's like, oh, so you came. Like, he's like, oh, hey, I can talk to you. And we can have, like, a conversation. And then right as he's about to, he's like, well, if it's you who's asking me to come, I'll definitely be there. And Uramichi's like, oh, cool. He's like, that's great. And he's like, Kikuku-san. And then it seems like they're about to have this, like, heart-to-heart and this great moment to bond. And Kikuku literally like just starts screaming at the person on the other end of the phone. And he's like, never mind. I'm gonna lock up my heart forever. And he's like, it's a stupid, crappy party. It's not like I came because I wanted to. Stop bugging me. And it's like, he's very two-faced. Like he said, oh, anything for you, Uramichi-san. I'm so glad I came. And then on the phone he screams at somebody that he didn't even want to be there. I'm like, Uramichi, I am all for you opening up your heart to somebody. You need to do that. But Kikaku may not be the person to do that with. He may be a little too much for you, and I don't know if that's going to work out. And he's like, oh yeah, Uebu came too. He and I are the only ones who started working here this year. And Uramichi's like, oh, you don't say. He's like, so we've come to highly value each other. He's very stubborn. But he's like, after I calmly explained my case, I persuaded him to come. And then it was this part where he's like, Uebu's like, I wasn't going to come, but he smashed my glasses and threatened me. If I didn't come, he'd send a bunch of anime body pillows to my parents' house with my name as the sender. And then the choreographer's like, oh, that'd be awful. So his glasses were smashed by Kikuku, and that's why he doesn't wear them. But he's not wearing colored contacts. He just has really pretty eyes. That's what it is. That's why he bumped into the choreographer. He didn't have his glasses on, but still, right? You wouldn't want your personal belongings taken away, right? And he's like, they're your personal belongings. And so then the one girl, she's like, oh, I was told there was a good-looking guy who's single here. So I even went and fixed my makeup. And she's like, yeah. And I like that both of them were like, maybe considering flirting with Iketeru and Uebu, and this scene just dashed all their hopes and dreams because they, one, realize that Iketeru is insane and probably not worth their time. But then Uebu says, I don't have the slightest interest in real life women. And I was like, oh, noted. And the choreographer's like, noted. So basically Uebu's not interested in ladies, not here for the ladies. And I like that Tadano was like, dismissed. We're done. And then that's when the choreographer like moves in and puts his hand on his shoulder and being like, then are you wearing contacts now? And he's like, no, I'm not wearing anything. He's like, everything's blurred, but since it's 3 dimensions anyway, he's like, I really don't care. And then the one girl's like, dismissed. Like, too bad. I thought he was a sincere type. And the choreographer's like, yes, you can't see properly and you're not interested in ladies. We're on. I'm rooting for the choreographer and Uebu. I'm rooting for them so that the choreographer will leave Usahara alone. Let's make this happen. So then he's like, where you been, Uramichi? We're about to play bingo. And Uramichi's like, I could care less about bingo. Now, bingo in Japan seems to be a bit different than bingo in the US. In the US, the bingo cards have literally the word bingo spelled out, and there's the columns like there are on that card, but it's like B14, O27, and all that, and it's a little bit more, you don't just have to get the number, you also have to get the letter in the number, so it's a little more complicated, so, but whatever. Uramichi's like, I don't want to play bingo. I don't want to be excited. I think that's what draws him to Iketeru is he's like, this guy's manic and doesn't like his job, but he's not pretending to be excited and like put on a happy face. He's not asking everyone else to either. He expects the worst kind of like I do. And so he's like, I kind of understand that realness. Whereas Usahara is trying to like put on a good face. And then we find out Eddie. Eddie is the guy holding the signs. I love it. So then they're playing the bingo game. Kumatani is just observing, of course, as always. And Utano ends up winning one of the prizes. And she wants the facial device, but then she sees her boyfriend and remembers him wanting the Yonezawa beef, the beautiful marbled beef. And he's like, I really would like that. So she asks for it instead. And I'm like, girl, I respect her for doing something for him and not choosing to do something for herself. But I'm also like, girl, that sucks. Like, I wish she would have done something for herself. I feel for her. I'm like, especially if we see that the guy, that her boyfriend didn't appreciate it. I'm sure he did. But I'm like, she could have chose something for herself. And she decided to be selfless and give him something instead. Ah, damn. Damn, you know? So then they're like, you might get a bingo next time and get a special prize. And Uramichi's like, I have a bad feeling like about this. And so they're like, we'll have the marketing guy come up. And he's like, I want to ask about our promising new employee to introduce the prize. And Uramichi's like, I have a bad feeling about this. And he's like, I'm Kikaku from the merchandising department. And they're like, oh, hey, cut your hair. I love the tone of guy's hair. His hair is wild. I mean, I don't think he should cut it, but it is like Flyaway Central. He definitely looks like a band member doing this because he has to. He's like, well, since we handle the production of goods and novelties together with Mamen, he's like, yeah, about that. I brought a product related to the show just so I can introduce it to you as well. What does he say about it here, though? He says, here we go. And it's like offered by the merchandising department, a Katori-san full bodysuit. Like the mannequin and everything. It even comes with a baguette. Like it's the full-on thing. Like the mannequin is with the prize. It's like, I definitely am not recycling an item that didn't get approved in the meeting. Because like who would buy that? The show's for kids. Why would you sell a Katori-san adult bodysuit? It's not for kids. It's not like a kid costume. Oh my god. He's like, nor am I trying to get rid of a useless sample that I ordered when I was wired late at night by making it a prize here at all. And then Uramichi ends up with it and he doesn't want to say that it's his. But Usahara makes him accept it. Of course Usahara would like this game because it's gambling. So of course he's like all about it. But oh my god. And then just it draped over him. I like, Uramichi's like, how'd you get into my blind spot? And he's like, take good care of it. Here you go. You have to take it. Oh, it just draped on him. And Iketeru's like, what is that? You know he's going to wear that suit at some point in the rest of the season. He's going to wear that outfit. It's going to happen. But he wanted a shiitake mushroom growing set. Which is interesting because I always felt like, isn't the meme with growing mushrooms that you're like boring or bland, that you just grow mushrooms? Is that it? So maybe Uramichi just wants something boring and bland to watch after. It seems he likes growing shiso though, so maybe he does like growing herbs and fungi and stuff for eating. Because you can eat shiitake mushrooms. So maybe he just wants to grow his own food. But instead he ends up with that stupid plush and next to the full bodysuit with the mannequin. Oh, bless. And it's like 11:20 at night when he's thinking that without being able to fall asleep. Oh man, y'all. I feel so bad for him. I really like Kikaku and I really like Weibo. I really like our new characters. I'm glad we finally get to meet them. We still haven't met the barista from that we see Iketeru's sister with, so we still got to meet them. But Kikaku is so manic that you could do so much with his character, and Uebu is so dry that you could also do so much with his character. I am so here for both of them. But before the next episode, I am definitely going to go watch some of the English dub now, knowing this. And so I will definitely come back and tell you all about the English dub, at least episodes 1 through 9, before we go on to episode 10. So in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of Uramichi Oniisan. Bye!